Well, I'm in a very heavily conservative area. That would never happen here. Wrong. Welcome to Come and Take It. Thanks for joining me. I'm Sara Gonzales. By the way, before we get started, make sure go over to wherever you get your audio podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, go subscribe to Come and Take It on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Rate us. We'd appreciate it. It'll help us in the algorithm, which we all know is not kind to people with this type of conservative content.
They're censoring anything that might be viewed as unpleasant.
So I'm going to talk to you this week about the fight in Texas schools to protect kids from graphic content. And every single time that I say something like that, I'm like, I really just genuinely cannot believe that these words are coming out of my mouth, because it's so hard to come to terms with the fact that this is how far we've fallen, not just in this country, but in the state of Texas. But the fight to protect children from sexualized content rages on here in the state of Texas.
The battle raged on.
Now, many lawmakers will tout the Reader Act that was passed last session as, like, look,
we took care of the problem. Look what we did.
I mean, we've heard so many lawmakers take victory laps, some of whom, by the way, are no longer going to be in the next session because they got voted out. But so many of these lawmakers will take these victory laps and say,
we passed the Reader Act. We banned drag shows for kids. We were the most conservative session in Texas history.
People love to take credit for the fun ones.
Well, I mean, okay, like, you passed it. Is it working? Because I'm going to talk about a story that this type of thing is still going on in Texas schools, okay? If you guys have watched my previous episodes, you know that as far as drag shows for kids go, that's still happening.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad! You keep digging!
In fact, they've just gotten more emboldened and empowered because that particular law is hung up in the courts. So this stuff is still happening, and the lawmakers want to turn a blind eye because they want to pretend like their little bills solved the problem. It didn't, all right? So let's talk about the Reader Act. This is the one that's supposed to protect kids from this particular type of content in school libraries. So the Reader Act stands for Restricting Explicit and Adult Designated Educational Resources. And what it did was it basically mandated new collection development standards that would prohibit school libraries from obtaining or possessing materials that are sexually explicit, that are harmful, that are pervasively vulgar, or educationally unsuitable. So, which again, kind of crazy that we have to even make a law that states this.
These are perilous times
In the state of Texas to prevent these mentally unstable leftists from indoctrinating children, but here we are. And they did pass it. The problem with the bill is that community members have to go into these schools, go into the libraries, scour through all of the books, scour through the shelves and shelves and shelves of content, find the books, pull the books off the shelves. Now, the books stay on the shelves during the review, but pull the books off, go through them, find the inappropriate content, and then when they do, they submit a challenge or they submit a review to the school district. Please review these books. I find them to be explicit, harmful, pervasively vulgar, or educationally unsuitable. Here's my reason why. Pages X to X. Okay? So, like, in practicality, it's a lot harder to get this material off the shelves because sometimes community members, I mean, especially the moms, like if you're a mom and you're watching this right now, do you have time to go up to the school library and pull every single book that looks like it might be a problem? And not only just like glance at the title. I mean, you got to go through it because some of this stuff is hidden. Do you have time for that? No. Most of you don't. Now, there are a lot of you out there who, God bless you, I appreciate you so much, dedicate like hours and hours and hours of your time just doing this as a volunteer. You don't get paid for it. You're just like, I want to protect kids. And God bless you. People don't have time to go through that. So obviously, then they go through a review process. And there have been plenty of districts who have people reviewing these books who just override the challenges and place these inappropriate books back in the libraries. So again, the Reader Act was a start. I'm not going to say it was a bad bill, but the problem is not solved. If you have kids that are still in Texas public schools, please know that. Don't dismiss the content that is in your child's school because you saw that Texas passed the Reader Act, okay? Trust me when I tell you, I have firsthand experience in that it's always where you least expect. You may be thinking to yourself, well, I'm in a very heavily conservative area. That would never happen here.
Who are you who are so wise in the ways of science?
Wrong. Let me just tell you about my little experience at Plano Independent School District. So Plano, PISD, is where I went to school. That was where I grew up. That was where I graduated from. Plano Independent School District. It was, pretty conservative area. And unfortunately, a lot's changed in all the schools across the country. Texas is no different. And so I had to show up at a school board meeting not that long ago. I think this was like last year. And stand in front of these school board members and read to them the material that they had available to children in their libraries. And so for those of you who missed it, when you want to know how grotesque this stuff is, here's some of that.
Next speaker is Sara Gonzales, Plano ISD non-resident. Topic submitted, PISD libraries.
He palmed my breast, his thumb flicking over my nipple. I cried out, and he buried himself in me with a mighty stroke. He pulled out a few times, the muscles of his back flexing beneath my hands, and then he slammed back into me. Again and again, and when that lightning once more filled my veins, my head, when I gasped out his name, his own release found him. He plunged his face between my legs, driving into me with tongue and teeth and fingers, until I begged him to stop. No, it was a growl. Give me your cream. I had no choice. He made me, but then I pleaded for more. Me. He smiled. Say it again, louder. When I did, in a single strong move, he slid one arm under me, flipped me over onto my stomach, tugged me to the foot of the bed. Suddenly, he was inside me. In one gigantic shudder, it was all released right there in me. That right there is found in Plano ISD school libraries. You know what else is found? The words and shit. Are any of you uncomfortable yet? I wonder if you're uncomfortable why you allow this smut to be in Plano libraries accessible to children. Because anyone who thinks that this disgusting garbage has a place in our school libraries, quite frankly, shouldn't be within 500 feet of any school. Plano parents entrusted all of you with the responsibility of protecting their children. At this point, you have a decision to make. Will you protect them or will you be a coward? Have the
time is up.
Next speaker is we have to maintain the meeting's decorum, please. I'll remind you.
Now, by the way, these school board members, we FOIA'd their notes that they were taking, Freedom of Information Act request. So we requested these notes, and several of them actually wrote on their notepads about me. She read, oh, so we agree it's. Why is it in your library available to children? What do you call a person who thinks that it's okay to sexualize, to provide porn for kids? I feel like there's a name for that. I feel like there's a term for that. Certainly they shouldn't be within 500 feet of a school, let alone on a school board. But I digress. It's always where you least expect, okay?
They came out of nowhere.
And to that point, I want to give you another example. Llano ISD. This is in Llano, Texas. Now, this is what they call, just for those of you who are unfamiliar, you may look at a map and say like, oh, well, that's near Austin, so they must be crazy. No, Llano is like outside of hill country. It's called the deer capital of Texas. Like it's a very, it's not this crazy urban progressive area, okay? But in Llano ISD, the district has now created a policy that will essentially make it harder to get books removed from their libraries. Call it a loophole, so to speak, okay? And the loophole will allow them to indoctrinate children. Here's what happened from TexasScorecard.com. Bonnie Wallace, whose daughter graduated from Llano High School a few years ago, has a list of 207 books that she wants removed from the Llano ISD library shelves for vulgar or inappropriate content. She submitted paperwork to challenge 21 books at the beginning of the year. After being told it would take a month to review each book, she held off submitting any additional changes. Hold on. It would take a month to review each book. That's what the district is telling her. Like, in what world is that reasonable? In what you guys are responsible for educating our children, and it takes you 1 month to review one book?
9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
A book in which you guys already have the pages, you guys already have the content that is inappropriate. You don't have to sift through. You already see it. They've already flagged it for you. In what world would it take 1 month to review one book at a time? None. It's almost like they just want to buy more time and allow the books on the shelves for longer. Because why else wouldn't you err on the side of caution? Again, I feel like there's a word for people like that. So from last week, okay, they say in the article, earlier this week, Wallace began submitting additional book challenges. However, Llano ISD Superintendent Mac Edwards told her she had no standings to submit the request as the book review policy adopted in March. Oh, there's a new policy as of March, specifically states that only a district employee or a parent or guardian of a district student may request the reconsideration of a library material maintained in the district's library program. Well, wait a second. Her tax dollars go to the school if she lives in the district. And by the way, whether or not she's an active parent of a child in the school doesn't change the fact of the content in the books. So the content either meets the criteria of being harmful and should be removed, or it doesn't. Who cares if her kids go there? Who cares if her neighbor's kids go there? Who cares? What about the kids of parents who just have absolutely no idea that this is going on? Who just don't even know any better, don't even know to check? I mean, I would argue, like, look around, you should be paying attention. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of parents right now. Maybe they're working 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Maybe they're just really busy. Maybe they're taking care of an elderly parent. We don't know what everyone's life situation is. And the fact of the matter is there are probably still a lot of parents out there who just have absolutely no idea of the dangers of public school libraries. Again, I say that statement comes out of my mouth and I'm like, how crazy it is that I'm saying the dangers of public school libraries. But the fact of the matter is, that's just the truth.
I'm so glad we cleared that up.
So, like, what if you have, a parent who just doesn't know that this is going on, who would be livid, who would be devastated to know that their child was learning about all sorts of sexual acts from their school libraries? What about those kids? Are those kids not worth protecting? They're not worthy of the same protection just because you don't actively have a child that goes to that school district? I mean, that's absurd. That's ridiculous. So now this woman who has taken the time to go through all of these books, there's, how much did I say? 200 and something? 207 books. that she has taken the time to go through and flagged all of this content, and now she can't challenge any of the other ones. And remember, the ones that she submitted, if they're taking 1 month to review one book at a time, it's going to take almost 2 years to go through just those. I mean, that's absurd. Are these the people that you trust to be in charge of your kids' education? So either they're completely inefficient fools, or they want to provide sexually explicit literature to kids. Or both, quite frankly. I'll let you decide.
I warned you, but did you listen to me? Oh, no, you knew it all, didn't you?
Now, this woman, Wallace, told Scorecard, I find this so interesting. She said, when I first tried to challenge a book, they told me that no one in the history of Llano High School had ever challenged a library book. So if I'm the only person who's ever challenged a library book, and now they're changing the rule so that this one person cannot challenge, obviously it's to keep me from challenging books. They told on themselves. And I just imagine for a second wanting to indoctrinate children that badly. Being so dedicated. I mean, I understand dedication. I'm dedicated to a lot of things. I'm dedicated to my kids. I'm dedicated to my husband. I'm dedicated to my job. I'm dedicated to saving this country. I'm dedicated to protecting kids from sexual harm, mostly of the left. I'm dedicated to a lot of things. Imagine being dedicated to perverting children. Being dedicated to that cause, so much so that you are changing your policy to make it harder for community members who are paying attention, who are active, who are engaged, who are awake. You want to prevent them from being able to challenge this. You want to prevent them from forcing you to do your damn job and remove inappropriate content. Like, imagine wanting to indoctrinate children into these things that badly. You guys heard what I read in PISD. It's typically, I mean, it's all the same types of books, guys. By the way, there was one book that Wallace told Scorecard actually glorifies heavy drug usage, and that book was returned to the shelves in the library and now faces it has to be reviewed by the superintendent. So, you know, you got to admit, like, these little Marxist, this communist scum are very dedicated to the cause of indoctrinating your children. And just as a reminder, this story is happening in, again, the dear capital of Texas. It's where you won't expect. It is happening in a district near you. It is happening in your district. If it's not happening in your district, that's because there were a bunch of warrior volunteers, moms and dads and community members who already took the time to go through all of this, comb through all of these books and challenge all of them. And then, of course, assume that they've won all of their challenges because these little Marxists are putting more Marxists into the review process, and they'll review the book and determine, well, I mean, there's more benefit than harm. So we're returning the book. So it is happening where you live. If it's happening in the dear capital of Texas, it's happening where you live, I can assure you. So let this be just another plea to you guys. Get your kids out of public schools. You're not safe because you live in Texas. Get your kids out of public schools. These people are very dedicated to indoctrinating your children. I know it's the summer, so you're not thinking about it. You're like, well, we're in summer mode. We're not thinking about school. Well, you know what? You've still got time to jump ship. Still got time. School doesn't start till August. I'm homeschooling. Promise you, it's not as hard as you think. I mean, or you could just send your kids back to the hellholes that are going to teach them about, oral sex and anal sex and all sorts of things. Drug use, incest, all sorts of things. By the way, the incest it's glorifying the incest. I should say that. Glorifying incest and drug use.
Why would anyone do this?
And so, if you don't like how that sounds, wake up, get your kids out of public schools. All right. Thanks for joining me this week. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Remember, again, make sure you are subscribed. Do me a favor, go over to the audio podcast or go. Here's the thing. If you're listening on audio, do me a favor and go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor and just go Apple or Spotify. It'll take you like 5 seconds. Subscribe, hit 5 stars, because obviously we deserve no less. And write us a quick review, if you will. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on Come and Take It.